Hi friends, and welcome to Meals with Maria. Today I have vintage recipes for you. And I have my buddy JJ here. You want to say hi?
Hi.
And I have a cold, so super fun. The voiceover is definitely pretty nasally, so appreciate it. Appreciate that you're still here for me. I've still been cooking. Everything's been okay. And these recipes are absolutely fantastic. You're going to love them.
We're going to get started with a vintage classic, the Whoopie Pie. Now, the filming is not great on this, but in a small bowl, you want to take a half a cup of baking cocoa and half a cup of hot water and mix that together and then set it aside. And while that's cooling, we'll get started on our mixer with a half a cup of shortening. There's a lot of shortening in these Whoopie Pies. Like, I'm using Crisco butter flavor. I don't work with it a lot, but I have to tell you that it is actually quite delicious. So, every once in a while, a sometimes snack, right? You want to cream the shortening with about 1.5 cups of sugar for 5 to 7 minutes until it's fluffy. Then you want to add in 2 large eggs at room temperature and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And you also want to add in your cocoa mixture at this time. While this is mixing, off to the side, combine 2 2/3 cup of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And you're going to add this slowly to your mixture, alternating with about 1/2 cup of buttermilk. So a little bit of flour, a little bit of buttermilk, a little bit of flour, a little bit of buttermilk. And I find that this batter became so light and fluffy. Like, it was just, I don't know, it's not like anything I've ever made before. It reminded me a little bit of cake batter, but not quite as dense. Like, it was really fluffy, and maybe that's because of the shortening. I'm not sure. These Whoopie Pies are definitely more work than many things that I usually make, and I also don't usually do desserts on my channel, but I will tell you they are the best Whoopie Pies that I have ever had. And if you haven't heard of a Whoopie Pie before, they're kind of a New England thing, although I think that it's spread throughout the whole country at this point. It originated, they're not really sure. There is kind of a fight between whether it was originated kind of in New England, in Maine, or in Pennsylvania, Amish country. It's said that the Amish women would take leftover cake batter and put it down and make like little pies and then fill it with leftover frosting from a cake because they didn't want to waste something. The Whoopie Pie is also the official treat of Maine, not to be confused with the official dessert of Maine, which is blueberry pie. So they love their sweets up in Maine, apparently. And you could see a lot of Whoopie Pies sold at like little stores across New England, and they are delicious, but these are actually the most delicious that I have ever had in my life. And they go all the way back to like the original recipes, or the Berwick Cake Company of Roxbury, Massachusetts was selling Whoopie Pies as early as the 1920s. They also have some fun names called the Black Moon, or the Gob, which is a Pittsburgh regional name, the Black and White Blob, a Bob, or a BFO, Big Fat Oreo. And I think they actually called them Devil Dogs at one point, but I've had Devil Dogs, like the Little Debbie snacks, and they're a little bit different, like they're shaped differently. So that's a little history for you of the Whoopie Pie, and totally worth it. Like, fun to find out these different information about food snacks, and I feel like it kind of encourages you to make it because you're like, well, I didn't know that. Like, it's just fun to have a traditional vintage snack. I also realized that if you don't know what one is, you probably are expecting an actual pie. They're not pies at all. Maybe they're like hand pies, but it's cake that's like a cookie, and then it has frosting or cream in the middle, and that's what it looks like. So once everything is well mixed, you want to set up a couple of baking sheets and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You want to either grease those baking sheets or use baking mats like I am. And then to form each cookie, you're going to drop about 2 tablespoons 2 inches apart onto your baking sheets. I'm using a cookie scoop that's about 1.5 tablespoons, and I'm just kind of overfilling it a little bit. The recipe said that it would make about 24 Whoopie Pies, but using this method, I made about 15, which was fine for me. So I guess you could make them a little bit smaller, but I think you'd have to use a little bit less than 2 tablespoons. You want to bake them until they're firm to the touch for 10 to 12 minutes, and they do kind of come out spongy like a cake. While those were cooking, I got started on my filling, and you may find this odd because I did, but in a small saucepan, you want to combine 3 tablespoons of flour and a dash of salt, and then gradually whisk in milk until it's smooth, and you're going to cook this over medium-high heat until it's thickened. That's about 5 to 7 minutes. And yeah, I found this odd because it was making something rather savory. Like, it reminded me of something I would make in order to make a macaroni and cheese or something. But I did find that once you make it, you put it into the refrigerator and cool it until it's completely cool. And then you add it back to the stuff to make the frosting. It really makes the frosting fluffier, like pillowier. It's kind of hard to describe. It almost reminds me of like gelatinizing it so that it doesn't smush down and flatten out, which is exactly what you want in the middle of your whoopie pie, so that it's nice and thick. And so it really does thicken that frosting for you. And believe me, there is plenty of sweet, so don't worry, it's not going to turn out savory in the least. You can see I'm using this silly milk because I bought it on clearance and it's going to expire, so I'm like, well, we're using it. It's a perfect thing for baking. So yeah, this should be nice and thick after about 5 to 7 minutes, and you can take it off the heat, let it cool down a little bit, and then put it in the refrigerator until it's completely cool. And not to toot my own horn, but my timing was pretty perfect because my whoopie pies came right out of the oven as I was done with that sauce. So I just let those cool on a wire rack and cooked up the rest of them, and in a few hours my milk mixture was all cool and it was time to make the filling. Working in the mixer again, I'm using 3/4 cup of shortening and 1.5 cups of confectioner sugar with 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And I'm just going to cream that together until light and fluffy, another 5 to 7 minutes. I feel like with this recipe, it's like everything is 5 to 7 minutes, but it's not bad. You just kind of know the numbers. And once that is well mixed, you want to add that cold milk mixture and beat until fluffy about another 7 minutes. Now you're ready to assemble your whoopie pies. So you just want to spread some of the filling over the center of one of the pies and then put the top on it. And I'm just wrapping mine up into some saran wrap because I'm going to serve them at a party. But you can do it however you want to. I also thought at the end of this, I'm like, you know what would be fun sometime? Just make like a giant one. So make it into a cake. And so fill it and make it look like whoopie pie, but make it the size of a cake. And I think that would be so delicious because really the cake, that like chocolate part of it is so moist and so yummy, and the filling is really fantastic too. So regardless of what shape you make it in, it's still going to be really good. Now, I obviously tried one day of because it was so good, but I was a little bit sad that I hadn't saved a few extra for myself because I brought them to this party, and then afterwards I was like thinking about them, like I need more whoopie pies in my life. It's like, it's kind of a task to make them, so you know, special occasions for sure. And I'm going to get requests for them now that I made them. I know it because they are just so good. But worth the time, worth the effort, 100%. Just something different, something you need to kind of plan ahead on because it kind of takes some time, but they are so amazing. And here I just kind of wanted to show you the filling, like what it looks like on the inside, and so fantastic. For this next recipe, we're going to go a little easy on ourselves and make a lazy man's version of a classic English pea salad. Now, this is something that may have been on potluck tables in the 1950s and 60s, so it's just a Midwestern classic. You want to start with 1/3 a cup of chopped red onion and 4 cups of frozen peas that are thawed. So you don't need to actually cook the peas. You just want to make sure that they've been kind of sitting out or sitting in the fridge for long enough that they are no longer frozen. In a medium bowl, combine your 4 cups of thawed peas with your 1/3 a cup of red onion. Then you want to add 1/2 cup of shredded cheddar cheese and 4 strips of cut bacon. Now, I'm just going to actually use the real bacon bits from Walmart, about 1/3 cup. You can add as much or as little as you like because everything is better with bacon, right? And then 1/2 cup of ranch dressing. Now, this is the lazy man's version of this, right? So you're just going to use ranch dressing, which is also semi-traditional. I read one recipe where somebody was like, you know what? This is my recipe. Basically, makes your own ranch dressing. But when I'm in a bind and when I'm trying to do things quickly, I just add my favorite ranch. So that's what we're doing tonight. We've got a little helper here, someone just trying to show us what's in his mouth. Very sweet. Nice job, Julian. You want to mix this up and add salt and pepper to taste, and you can just refrigerate it for about 30 minutes. It's a nice cold salad. I also read about someone who would make this salad at the beginning of the week and use it as a side all week for lunches, which is a great idea, I think, and it sounds delicious. This particular night, I served cornbread casserole, which I will put the recipe down below for you, and I do have a video coming up on it, so I'll let you know as soon as that comes out. A pea salad and some Hawaiian chicken in the crock pot, and that video is already out, so I'll make sure to put that in the description box below. And all these recipes will be in the description box as well, because I know some of them are more involved than others, but it was such a delicious dinner. This was completely awesome. For this next recipe, we're going to use the vintage method of buttermilk brining, but we're going to make a grilled buttermilk chicken. And this wasn't a list of vintage recipes, but when I go down the road of real vintage in the internet archives, I'm really only finding like fried chicken. So I guess we're not doing that final frying step. We're going to go grilled instead. But this was absolutely delicious. The key to buttermilk brining is that it really tenderizes the meat because it is an acid. It's actually an acidic milk, and it will actually break it down, and the chicken ends up really, really tender. Now, I personally had 2 very large chicken breasts today, and I wanted to slice them very thinly because I want to make sure that they really did stay tender. We didn't have to cook them for too long. Kind of your choice on how you want to do it. I think that this would also be really, really good with a boneless, skinless thigh or a bone-in, skin-on thigh, because we are grilling it. No matter what way you're going to do it, if you're marinating in this buttermilk overnight, it's really going to bring a lot of flavor and really tenderize that meat. It's going to be delicious no matter what type of chicken that you are using. How cute is that baby crawling around in the background? Give this video a like if you think the baby's cute. All right, we're also going to use 4 cloves of garlic, and we're going to cut those in half, and then we're going to put them right into the marinade with the chicken. Now, you can use a pan for the chicken, or you can use a bag. I'm just using a bag just because it was easier for me, but if you have like a 13x9, that might be a good way to marinate it, or even in a bowl would probably be okay too. Now, if you have fresh thyme, go ahead and use 4 fresh thyme sprigs, but I'm just going to use about a tablespoon of dried thyme because that's what I had, and then 1.5 cups of buttermilk. And you want 1/2 teaspoon of salt in that, and just mix it up there. Make sure that everything's fully covered, and you want to marinate this 8 hours or overnight. So I did mine overnight. You want to go in there and move this occasionally if you can, and the same thing goes if it's like in a bowl or a pan. Make sure that you're kind of moving your chicken around. And this is the next day. It comes out, it's all marinated, it looks delicious. I'm just going to cook this on my grill about 5 to 7 minutes per side. You want to make sure that your chicken's cooked all the way through to 165 degrees in the middle, and it is so good. This was so simple to just throw this marinade together. It did not have a lot of ingredients, and it was totally worth it. Super easy to grill up this chicken. I had mine for lunch, and then I actually have chicken for lunches all week now, which I'm super happy about. I served it with like a frozen cauliflower cheese medley thing that I got on sale. So it's super healthy and super delicious and amazing. Love this vintage idea of buttermilk brining. I mean, it's kind of an age-old classic, right? I want to thank you so much for watching today and sticking with me through my cold. I appreciate you so much. I'm so happy that you're here and got some vintage recipes. Make sure to give this video a like, especially if you like the crawling baby, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more amazing recipes, budget recipes, lots of good stuff coming up 3 times a week. To keep with the vintage inspiration, make sure to click on this video right here to get some 1960s recipes.
For someone like you.